Good afternoon, everyone. This afternoon's webinar will be all about using task boards. So we'll be looking at the different types of task boards that are available to you in Ayoa and a few different suggestions of how you might use it. So for those of you completely new to Ayoa, or even if you have been using Ayoa maybe the last few weeks, we've now got a brand new homepage. So now it's easier than ever to quickly make your task boards and to organize your task boards as well. So we now have folders on the side, so you can organize your task boards into different projects or into different themes. And you can easily also see the task boards that have been shared with you, as well as your own tasks. So the first type of task board I'm going to start with today is the canvas view. As you can see from the home page, we've illustrated what the different task boards look like. So the canvas view are organizing your task into very visual looking circles, and that's how we'll begin. So it's important to note that no matter what view these task boards you start with, whether it's Canvas, Workflow or Gantt, you can switch between the three styles at any time. So to create a new canvas, I'm just going to click Canvas. And then name your task board, and you can invite people. So if you've worked with them before, just type in their name. If you haven't worked with them before, then pop in their email address and they'll get an invite to Ayoa. And at this point, you can choose the permissions for these users. So for example, if I only wanted Rose to be able to see tasks that were assigned to her, I can do that. Or if I wanted someone to be able to read the task board but not edit it, I've got that option as well in read only. And then it's create task board. So you start off with your blank page, and then we can think about how we're going to build our task board. So the first example I'm going to go with is using a project management technique called Getting Things Done. So it's actually trademarked by David Allen, and it's basically a way of organizing how your tasks can be processed. So in this particular example, I'm going to create categories based on how these tasks would be completed. And I'll begin to show you, what I mean by this. So to create a category, just drag and drop in this circle here. Now I can name my first category. So I'm thinking about, how do I get particular tasks done? So for example, this first one, I'm going to call calls. And I would create my next category. So this one, the emails. The next one, meetings. So I'm going to stick with 3 categories for now, just to give you a general idea of how you might organize your tasks in this scenario. So what this is going to make me think is, when I create a task, is this something that can be done in a phone call? Is this something that can be done through an email? Or is this something that can be done in a meeting? I don't know about you, but during this lockdown especially, there have definitely been meetings where I thought, could this have been done in an email? And likewise, I've been caught in very long email threads where I thought, this really should have been a meeting. And this type of task board, when you organize it in the getting things done format, will help you work out the best way to approach your tasks. So to add your first task, you can drag and drop, or it's much simpler just to double click in whatever category you want to add it to. created my first task. So this is called Team Catch Up. So for this one, I can drag and drop it and put it in meetings, as that's something that might be better face to face. And that's just sort of an example of how you begin to build up those different tasks. So to add another task, again, just double click. Do a HR update. Perhaps this one would be better in an email where you can contact as many people as possible and where there'll be a record of what was said. And these are just general examples of how I might approach deciding how I put tasks into different categories. So that's one example of how you might set up your task board. But then alternatively, I go back to Canvas, you might want to organize your tasks in terms of the different departments that might process them. Again, I'm going to invite a few different people and create my task board. So this time we're going to drag and drop our categories. This one I'm going to call marketing. This one I'm going to call sales. And once again, I've got the 3 bubbles, but this time it's a very different way of approaching how we might organize the tasks. So for example, I'm just going to double click. I've got my first task here. I might consider, it might start off in customer service, but then it might be something better suited to sales, for example. So in this one, for example, our marketing team might begin that, but we might need a connecting task. And if I want to show these 2 connected, I can just drag and drop. And even though they're in different categories being managed by different departments, we can still see there's a connection there. As so often, many different departments will collaborate on different things. So we've looked at using categories to organize tasks in terms of departments, the basic idea behind getting things done. So I'm just going to show you, a bigger task board that we created earlier, just to show you how these things grow. So this particular task board, and that's sort of in workflow, but if I change it to the Canvas view, you can see already that in this one I've used a combination of organizing things by department. So I've got marketing, outsourced, but also I have my to-do category here. So any tasks that haven't been done or assigned yet are popped in here, and I've got ready for review here. So you can combine those different ideas of organizing things by how they should be done and also by whom they should be done. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go back to the home page, and I'm going to show you a very basic Kanban style in workflow view. So that's the middle column here. I'm just going to invite some people. and create my task board. So this time when I create my task board, instead of having the circles organizing my tasks, they're going to be organized by columns. So for example, inbox, and although technically the categories are the same, they serve exactly the same purpose as they do in Canvas view, because they're columns side by side, the workflow view lends itself really well to workflows that need to go in a particular direction, need to go through particular departments before they're processed, and therefore is really effective for applying a more Kanban style to managing your tasks. So for example, we're gonna add another task here. We've got our first task here, and even now I can start to think about how can I break this up. So we got it very simple. So inbox, where we can put new tasks that perhaps haven't been assigned yet, and to do could be accepted, and even this one you can break up into departments if you wanted to. So if you go to the settings, so up here, you can allow subcategories in your workflow just by dragging and dropping. You can create a subcategory within to do. I can drag and drop my task in there. Likewise, as you go along, you can drag and drop that task to show its progress. And then once again, just to show you the subcategories, just drag and drop another category within here. So to the done category, we've added extra sections here where this blog, for example, could be done but is being proved. And then finally, the blog is done and is now finally live. So we've set up a really, really simple Kanban style here. And if you want to, you can flip back to the Canvas view and view it in exactly the same way. Or stick to that Kanban style. So once you've begun working on these different task boards, you're going to want to add more details to your tasks. So I'm just going to show you the different options you have in your task side panel. So at the very top here, we've got the cover image. And you can either upload an image, search for one on the royalty-free website Unsplash, or add an icon. I really like the search tool because I just find it so much quicker. Just choose the image I want and it adds it there. Now, if I want to communicate with people, have I started this? I can pop that there. I can also communicate to people it's on hold. Now, as time goes on, I can show exactly how far along I am. I can also show whether this is urgent or important. So these icons are going to be more useful to you, when you're working with a team and delegating those tasks out to lots of different people. By using those urgency flags, it means that your team are going to have a much clearer idea of what they need to focus on first. Down here, you can choose your start date. You can even set a time. And then here you've got your due date. So the additional option you have in the due dates is that if this is a task that you do on a regular basis, you can set it up to repeat. So I'm just going to show you an example here. Let's say weekly team meeting, for example. So I go back down to due date, choose Monday, and then here you've got an option called repeats. So if I change never to weeks, and then set the due date, when I complete this task, so for example, we've had this meeting and that one's done for the week, if I click completed, it removes the previous task and it adds the new task with the new due date of a week after. And you can do that for days, weekdays, months, or even years. So you can set things up to repeat way in advance. You also assign additional users. So at the moment, I'm assigned here, but I could choose to unassign myself and then assign anyone else that I've added to this task board. But I could add multiple people if I wanted to. This option shows me exactly where this task is located, and if I did want to move it to a different task board, I can do that very easily by just searching task board that I need and then adding it to the category as well. So it's really easy to relocate tasks if you realize that they should have actually been placed in a different task board. So on this one, we've set a start date. I'm just going to set a due date as well. But what you can also do is add additional reminders. So if you wanted to check in, say maybe halfway through, you can do that. You can leave yourself a little note to remind yourself. And by setting up those reminders, especially if it's a task that's going on for a long period of time, it means rather than rushing everything at the last minute, you can add little checkpoints to check your progress, see whether you're behind or not. And what can really help with that, in combination with the reminders, is that we've got a checklist item as well. You can add multiple checklist items and check them off as you go along. So you can see now that we've added lots of information to this task, before I even click on it, I can see lots of information already. So I can see exactly who's working on it, when it needs to be started, when it needs to be finished, how many checklist items are done. I can see that it's fairly important and very urgent, and I can see how far along it is. Now you may find that you may not want to add all of this information to every single task that you do, but adding this information, especially if you're assigning it to other people, will ensure that your communication is better and that your team has a much better understanding of what's expected of them. And there are other ways to support them as well. So we've got a section called notes. So in here you can type anything you want that's going to help. So you could write your brief. You could write what's expected of the report, or any additional information which you think is going to help this person complete this task. In the comment section, you can use the @ sign and discuss this task directly with other people. And what that means is that rather than having multiple emails back and forth, you've got that conversation happening on the actual task itself. In here we've got attachments, so you can upload your attachment from your computer, or if you use Dropbox or Google Drive, you can add links directly to there as well. Because Ayoa is cloud-based, it means that when you log on a different device, whether that's a different laptop or even your iPhone or iPad, you're still going to be able to access those files. So even if you've forgotten your laptop at the office, you can still very, very quickly check your phone and get hold of that important document. Now, if you've added quite a few checklist items that you've realized are actually big enough to be tasks in their own right, what you can do is go to the More tab and choose Convert to Category. So what that's going to do is it will change this task to a category, and each checklist item will be turned into its own individual task. Here, and as you can see, that task we were working on earlier is now a category, and those checkpoints of research, images, and interviews are now individual tasks with the same original due date and start date and assignees as that original task. Now, the next view that I want to show you is called Gantt Timeline. And as you can see, that this is a completely different view again. So instead of the Kanban columns or the circles of the canvas, instead we've got a timeline which we can add our task to. So because this task only has a due date, we just see it as a little point here. But if I add a task, and I can do this directly just by dragging and dropping from the start date I want it at and the end date. And it adds my task so I can see exactly when it starts, exactly when it needs to finish. And if I click on it, I've got access to exactly the same features that I do on all the other taskboard views. As I hit the progress bar, this is visually represented on the task. And it's really easy to move tasks back and forth to adjust those start and due dates. And if I want to show that a task is dependent on another, I can easily drag and drop it here. So the other difference in the Gantt timeline is that as well as your tasks and your categories, there's also an additional option called milestones. So if I click and choose a milestone here, it will be slightly different than your task. So your task is going to be individual goals, while your milestone might be a representation of a collection of different goals. So let's say you've got 10 tasks you need to do to reach your goal. That milestone might be that. So it's the milestone that we're essentially working towards. In this view as well, you can export your timeline as a PDF. You can do that here. And you can either do a full export of the full timeline, or if you've got a particularly long project, you can focus in on a certain date range. So what I'm going to do now is move to a bigger task board that I've created earlier. You can see, it's got bigger over time. And I'm going to do that so I can show you how to filter. So the filter option is down here. And you've got a couple of different options of how you can filter and focus on different tasks. So for example, if you're looking for a particular task, you can type in its name here. That will filter out all the tasks except the ones with the same name. If you are a manager and you want to focus on a particular colleague of yours, just to see what their input or their output is like, you can focus in on a particular person and filter out everyone else's tasks so you can see exactly what they're working on and double check how they're doing. I mentioned the importance and urgency option earlier, where you can use that to flag to yourself or other people how important or urgent a task is. And this becomes especially useful in the filter, because now what you can do is filter out everything else so you're only focusing on the urgent tasks. You can do exactly the same for importance. You can use a combination of all these different filters to really focus in on what needs to be done. An additional feature on the filter is tags. So if I scroll right back down this task, right at the bottom I've got tags. So you can see at the moment I've got marketing. I can add additional tag if I want. So if I go back to this filter, use my tag, then I can filter in on those particular tasks. And that's really going to help you as your task board grows, especially if you've got lots of different departments involved or there are lots of different facets to your project. You can use those tags to really organize and categorize your tasks. So when it comes to filtering through and looking for particular tasks, it's just going to make your life so much easier. So as your task gets larger, you can easily jump to categories by clicking up here. And it will move the task board so you can find it easily. This is particularly useful in the canvas view as it gets bigger. And then finally, what I'm going to show you is what happens when you complete a task. So we're going to say this one is now done. As you can see, it's removed off the task board. But now if I go into completed, I can see a list of all my completed tasks, exactly when they were completed. And if I click on it, I can still see all that same information that I added to it before it was completed. And in fact, if you decided that it was finished prematurely, all you need to do is click in progress and it adds it back to your main task board. Okay, so that was an example of different ways you might use your task board and the different options you've got for your tasks. So what I'm going to do now, I can see that some people have had some questions already, but if you want to start submitting your questions, I'll have a look and do my best to answer them. Okay, so I'm just reading for your questions now, but please feel free to submit any more while I'm just having a read there. Okay, so someone's asked a question about sub-projects. So we don't have sub-projects, but we do have subcategories. And you can create subcategories. I'm just going to move to a smaller task board by just dragging and dropping an existing category here. What we do also have now, so if I go back to the home page, is that we now have folders. So you can organize your task boards in that way as well. For example, if I create a marketing folder, within that, I might add an additional folder. What I could do then is I could use those folders as my projects, where I add my I can add multiple different task boards and mind maps that might contribute to that particular project. So for example, I'm just going to drag and drop this one into my main marketing folder. But I'll put this one in my digital marketing folder. So that's a way you could organize your different projects. Okay, so the next question I believe is about repeating tasks. So we're asking about rescheduling a meeting. In that scenario, it's not too difficult to just change the due date here. So for example, I could change it to Tuesday, and then after that meeting I can readjust it so it's on the Monday, and then repeat it. Okay, so the next question is, can you link between different mind maps if they are in different folders? Okay, so I'm just going to find an example mind map here. So you can add mind maps to your folders, but if you want to show a connection between one mind map and another, what you can do, if you click on one of the branches, click on the three-dot menu, and up here, click Mind Map Links. You can search here for the mind map that you want to connect. You can choose a branch if you want to, or just leave it as the mind map. And then that adds a link. So I'm not going to be able to show how email to task work, as I might end up showing my own emails, which would be breaking a few GDPR laws. So what I can do, I'll send you a guide on how you would do that. Okay, so while I'm waiting for some more questions, I'm just going to give you some information on how you would find out more about using Ayoa. So we've got a huge amount of support guides. They're all over on support.ayoa.com. So that covers task boards, mind maps, anything you could think of. Then on our YouTube channel, just search Ayoa and you should find us. And on there, we've got YouTube videos, but we've also got recordings of our webinars, which we've done in the past. And then any additional questions, just email at support@ayoa.com and we'd be happy to help. So next week's webinar will be on Tuesday, but at the same time, and that will be all about getting started in Ayoa. So it will cover mind maps and task boards and how the two interact. So we've had quite a few updates recently. It's introducing new languages, including Korean, Japanese and French, and we've got more languages to come. So I've just had an additional question on managing the number of notifications. Yes, so if you go to the menu, go to your settings, and go to your account settings. So you can see there's a setting here called notifications and emails. And in here, you can choose the level of notifications that you receive. So you can see I've turned mine off as I spend all my day in Ayoa. So I generally see everything that comes in. And then down here, you can turn off your emails for notifications, mentions, reminders, daily summary or marketing. You can control it in there and change that whenever you want. So that's in your account settings under notifications and emails. So we've got quite a few interesting updates coming up, mostly focused around being able to collaborate and work from home more easily. So we're working on a Zoom integration, virtual meeting capture, and a team pulse dashboard, which is all about sharing what you're up to with the team. Brilliant. Okay, so I'll be ending this webinar in a few moments. So does anyone else have any more questions? Okay, so I'm just going to go back here. So the different notifications you receive, it depends what you're interested in. So we've got a few suggested ones, for example. So if you wanted to go for focus, that would be tasks that maybe more directly affect you. So for example, tasks that are assigned to you, just comments, when tasks are completed, when due dates are near and start dates are near, for example. Detail just covers absolutely everything. So if you really don't want to miss anything, you can choose details. But the custom one is quite good because it means that you can choose then what you want to be notified, what you think is important. So for example, assigned to you, due dates, assigned to others, and you can just pick and choose what is important to you. So depending on how often you're in the app. So for example, I'm in Ayoa pretty much from the moment I start work to the moment I finish. So I tend to keep the notifications off just because I'm constantly in there. But if maybe you're in and out, I would maybe pop notifications on just so you're not missing anything. And then you've got your other preferences here. It's okay. But it looks like that's everything. But if there are any questions that come to you after this webinar, just pop me an email over at support@ayoa.com and I'd be happy to help you. Okay, I hope this has been helpful and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.